Sir, link been sent.
Yeah. Yeah, 10 people are there. Okay.
Namaste, sir.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. What about Raghavan sir?
Ready? I'll be coming.
Ah,
1 minute.
okay, okay. Professor Raghavanji. Hello, unmute your audio. Your audio.
Only 14.
Yeah.
That means.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we start?
Yeah.
Because only half an hour is there for them. By 7 o'clock, you need to start the class.
Yeah.
So now I request the participants, if you have any doubt or any clarification, yeah, you can ask him. No, it seems audio is not audible. Yeah, some problem with audio, please. If there is any problem with your audio, you can put it as message.
Shipra Ghosh. She has some problem with the audio. Yeah, some problem with this. Shipra Ghosh.
Yeah. I think Shipra is going to write something.
Yeah, someone else can ask question or clarification. No? Don't waste time.
Sir, Ananya,
Yeah.
okay. Sir, in yesterday's lecture, you have spoken about the UNESCO or WTO, World Trade Organization, or WIPO's interference or intervention into the sphere of folklore in the name of preservation and conservation of folklore. And they made another proclamation that they want to protect folklore from the illegal exploitation.
Yeah.
So what are the possible ways of illegal exploitation that they may be thinking of, or they want to mean?
Yeah, that is why. Yeah. That is why they wanted to bring this folklore also under their international rule. Not that international rule, but they propose that each member country has to make their own rules and regulations according to this recommendation given by the UNESCO to protect this one, the right of the concerned folklore. So that is the thing. That is for that three measures are there. There are three kind of this protection right is there. That is, one is IPR, then other one is CR, and the third one is PR. So all these are applicable to folklore. And actually that the final thing, final this 2001 and 2003 UNESCO approved that. According that, I think only copyright is only the way to protect, protect this preserve or protect the right of the folklore, as far as because they consider as intangible cultural heritage before that also, and that is an expressive form. When it is something concrete, it becomes tangible, and tangible having some other this one. So they want in a way they wanted to restrict the right of the folklore under this Copyright Act. That is the thing I understood. Not intellectual property right or any other right. No, that is why they used to say that it is indigenous knowledge IK and traditional knowledge TK. And like that, they used to say like that, and it is something else, not directly, no, it is not folklore as such. That is the problem. So folklore is something else that is equal to intangible cultural heritage, and it gets that kind of protection in these cases. That is the thing. No?
Yeah, I think there is one question from Shipra.
Yeah.
Our question is, many folk art and craft forms are disappearing due to lack of demand or
Yeah.
other reasons.
Yeah.
Then, how can we keep these alive?
Yeah. This is a question, man. I don't know how to answer that question. Still, I think if the society, the concerned society, we have nowadays folklore has two area, that is inside the community as well as outside the community. It goes outside also, that we call as out of context. I don't know whether you are talking about this context, first context, that is community context, where it loses its existence, or this folklore is extinguished in outside, as it is inside, something inside, that is a real folklore in its first context. That means they don't want, because that function is substituted by some other forms. That may be sometimes new industrial products substituted this this kind of folklore, and thereafter it is not needed. So say that naturally it will disappear. Nobody can help it. No, why do we want to and keep that? You can collect it and put it in the archive. So it has no function in the society, in the concerned community. So naturally it has to go. As far as this, the other one, we can make some demand. If it is not sustaining there in their own first context, it goes to the archive or museum, and later it will be a raw material, and then it will be a product, and you can sell it in the market. That is the second life. Actually, it is a second life. That can also be, but it is not directly related to the concerned folk. Now, once it is gone to this one, it is registered. If it is goes to the archive, and it is when usually naturally it gets a preservation that preservation, then you want to preserve that in the name of whom? Then somebody will be there, a community or individual, and it is the property of that particular community or the individual, and they can make it a raw material, and later it this cultural industry or folklore industry, it becomes a new product and it can be sold out. Then also this community or the folk created this has nothing to do in that respect. That is the thing.
I think not only that, did we keep our family tradition? We have changed a lot from our family tradition.
Yeah.
So is the case with artists also.
Yeah.
And secondly, as you rightly said, there is no demand for them. Why there is no demand? Because society has changed their attitude towards folk art forms. Because previously they used to support them, now they are not supporting. Yes, they were. So that is one reason. And secondly, like us, even the family members of these artist groups, now they are educating themselves, they want to get jobs, so they are fighting for their survival. If that is the case, we cannot divide of them such opportunities. But at the same time, you can see the wonder there. So most of the family members of the traditional art forms, they feel that, or they feel privileged to belong to such traditional families. So that means few families are reviving their own art forms. So like that it is also going on. So we cannot generalize depending on the attitude of the artist, attitude of the family members, and as well as the community which was supporting previously. Now some art forms are reviving, and some art forms they are changing, they are transforming, and some art forms, as you rightly said, they are in the what you call process of disappearing. Quite natural. Okay, ma, thank you. Is there any other question?
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, good evening, sir. This is
Yeah, good
Parvata, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir. Sir, how to classify the folk performing arts, sir?
No, it is not a question. I think pertaining to this, particularly pertaining to this workshop, I think it is part of the academic folklore.
Okay.
Because and say no, because we were talking about during those days about this classification of folklore, but Dorsen, when the definition of folklore also, we already explained that what is the way, what was the way that Dorsen classified that, and later Allen Enders and maybe R.S. Fox before that also. So that is the way. So such a question is not actually this. We already did that. I don't know why. It is not. Now it is not. The problem is that folklore faces so many problems, and if it sustains, then only we can have all these things. So the main issue that we deals with this in this workshop is that what is the fate of folklore today, and what we will do with that. So that is the main point that we are going to discuss, and maybe this classification and all other things. It is usually as usual in the academic thing, and folklore gets a new way of this one approach, then this classification also gets changed. That is what no, it is not very no, and which kind of classification you want explanation on that? One day somebody asked about box classification, and I replied for that. That is a cataloging system, followed cataloging system of the library, and then like that, no. So I think if you go back and see this this part of thing is there itself, I think.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening, Kamra Subramaniam, sir. Hello, sir. Raghavan, sir, did you hear me, sir? I hope he is not there.
Yeah,
Sir.
Subramaniam, please go ahead.
Sir, yes, sir. Actually, still I remember on the first day of our previous workshop on 2000, Reddy sir told a statement. While we are talking about the lore, he is just gave the comparison about this lore and energy. We have a theory on energy. Energy neither can be created nor be destroyed. Likewise, folklore could be changed into another form. It won't be stopped, or it won't be closed, or it won't be in a decay level. Sir told that it could be changed to another form. If the first we have to see the function of the lore, and we have to follow the function, and then we have to decide on which position now. Like that, he told us. Still, I remember that word. I want to compare that word to now, sir. Yes, sir. Now we are archiving something, archiving the lores, archiving the performances, and we are keeping in archives everything. In some cases, the lores reflects the suppression and oppression of their cultural and their social status also, sir. Some of the performers and some of the lores, they want to live away from the lore. Some of the performers also, they want to live away from the lore, and they thought that the folk thought that these lores are simply repeatedly the social setup is making by this lore as an suppression level also. We are also collected that type of lore also. So as a folklorist, what could be our role while we are keeping all these in our archives? And some of, as Reddy sir and many of we are discussing, what could be our role while we are considering the lore with their social and political status, and like this, sir. And some of the lores are becoming as a weapon for their struggle and weapon for their freedom struggle also, sir. How we have to consider all these things, and
Okay. Yeah, I can catch your point. See, there are two things. One is folklore as a data, and another is the study of the data. You are mixing both of them. As far as data is concerned, it is the duty of any folklorist, either individually or institutionally, to record and keep it in the archives. But I think that is not very easy in nowadays. You need a lot of amount for that. Because if you have to keep in archives, you need all professional equipment and recording. Everything becomes very costly nowadays. Only any institution, if it comes up, then only we can do the perfect recording. But for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can't do it anywhere. Individual scholars, I don't think they afford to document such a. No, I can tell you one thing. the Mahabharata from Kakapadigala, I thought that there may be 40 hours of recording for 2 artist groups. So I have given a proposal to Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts for 40 hours of recording, transforming and making other transcription, everything. But do you know, I have recorded 72 hours of recording. But after transcribing, I only came to know that it is only 1/4 of their expertise. So the whole Mahabharata, I was able to record only their birth and Kurukshetra and in between a few episodes. So that means they are able to narrate the Mahabharata story continuously for 3 months, daily at 5 hours. That means how many days it takes, and then how much money we need. And as you know, our governments, they are not for the what you call patronizing our culture. They have their own priorities. I mean, whatever may be the government, they have their own priorities. In most of the universities, especially where folklore departments are there, they are facing very much even to get their monthly, I think, salary. They don't get any funding from the government. So in this scenario, what can be done? Yes, you rightly said, and also I think Shipra also, she also expressed her anguish. Yeah, that is true. It is day by day, it is fading out. It is the duty of our folklorists to record them as much as possible. But how? How to proceed? Again, we can do it only, but sometimes, you know, you can get the repetition. Same art form has been recorded by so many people. So instead of that, you can have a kind of a dialogue with, I think, like-minded people, and one episode by one, another episode by other person. So like that we can do something for that. But it is the duty, no doubt at all. Even the government of India, now in the name of intangible cultural heritage, they are supposed to give projects, but unfortunately it was not given due to some other problems. So this is the position. And government of India is funding more than 15 institutions. Out of them, more or less, they are concentrating on culture-related activities. If they want to record, they record only what you call 1 or 2, or what you call here and there. It's a systematic recording is not going on. So that is what I personally feel after documenting so much of data on multi-facet folklore by taking village as a smallest unit. We have done it, but we need money. Even though we are opposing Ford Foundation, only because of Ford Foundation, most of the institutions, they were able to do documentation and archiving. So that is the reality. Of course, they changed their priority. Naturally, the folklore departments are also facing a lot of problems now. Okay, thank you. Hello, Pooja.
Hello, yes, sir.
Would you like to? Okay.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Am I audible, sir?
yeah, audible.
Yeah, sir. This is not related to tomorrow's question, but it's related to the Propian model, sir. If I'm wrong, sir, please correct me. According to the Propian model, there are 31st function and 7 characters. And these 7 characters should be what we found that these characters are available throughout everywhere in the folk tales. So my question is, in case if we miss any of the character, for instance, donor or trickster character in any of the tale, then still it will be considered under the Propian model, or just want to ask. I don't know.
Yeah, he himself, Prof himself, telling that 31 function, totally we have 31 functions. We don't get a single tale with 31 functions. No, in some of the trade, this one tale, maybe without donor, fairy tale won't be there because it is an integral part of this fairy tale that makes a fairy tale different from other tales. So trickster sometimes, maybe this one. Some of the there are some direct relationship with each function have direct relationship to some other function. If this function gets is not present in that particular tale, the other one also won't be there. That is the situation. It's directly not nearby. No, without lack, nothing will happen. If lack is there, liquidation of lack will be the last thing. No, so that is the structure of that tale. If any other this function, some kind of function, sometimes donor only comes once, but in some tales 2-3 times donor comes. That means 2-3 times he has so many problems. That means that tale has deviation, 2-3 deviations, and that's why donor has to come once and more than one time. So that is the way. You don't get a tale that consists of 31 functions. Maybe sometimes 5 or 6. Sometimes the initial situation won't be there. That is 1 to 8. That is initial situation. That is 1 to 8. 8 means 7. 1 to 7 it is missing. 8 is abruptly coming, and that is slack or villainy. Villainy is 8th A, small a, and 8th will be this lack. Whatever the villain does as a function, that there starts this one. So in that particular tale, only 24 functions. No, that also may not be there. Only 24 functions will be there. Initial situation is not a must. And in the same way, sometimes that tale does have second move. There are so many moves in a tale. Sometimes it will repeat. No, this move will repeat. First move, second move, third move. That in that way you can continue the tale for the whole night. That also possible. If there is one move is finishing with liquidation of lack that time, and after the liquidation of lack, few functions are there. Between that function, another lack has been created, and then the tale ends with the liquidation of lack of that one. That is called move. First move, some tale stop with, end with this only one move. That one lack and one liquidation of lack. There, after that, another lack, then another move. So how many lack you are getting in this? Then accordingly you get moves also. That is the structure of that. So it's a repetition of the functions. Yeah. You cleared?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, apart from this, I don't know whether it's a silly question or not, but as you were telling me, it will be added to the fairy tale. Will then folk narratives, like epic narratives, can't we use or can't be use the Propian model, just folk narratives or?
Yeah. With Propium model, No, Alan did his work on this other tales also, applied this Propian model, and he found out another model out of that, taking basic principles from this one. Lack and liquidation of, without lack and liquidation of lack, not tail. Even only one function and liquidation, two functions, you can have tail. So that also possible in the case of the animal tail. It is a small tail, no? Only one lack and liquidation of lack. There and some matter. So in that way, we can know it that Propian theory got extension by so many people, not only for fairy tale, other tales also, but this 31 function as the units, that is strict to the fairy tale.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. If anybody else?
Hello, any other question? You have 10 minutes.
But the problem is that we have only 21.
Yeah.
And that means out of that 21, only 17 or some as participants of this workshop. That means people are missing. That's why questions
Good
are.
evening, sir. Good evening, sir. It's me, Nijil.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, Nigel is,
Yeah,
please.
Nikhil, ask.
Is IPR and ICR capable to protect particular folklore for the folk? Yesterday you mentioned about you totally not agree with this protection.
Yes.
Protect your right, IPR and ICR for folklore.
IPR. What is your question actually?
And is IPR and ICR is capable to is
Capable to
protect a particular folklore identity or
that is a good question, because they are talking all the things to protect the right, protect the folklore, but it is not the protection of folklore, but the right over the protection of the right over folklore. That is entirely different. You have to understand one thing: protection of folklore and protection of the right over folklore is different. Whatever we say, IPR or CR or PR, is a protection of the right over folklore of someone, possessing that one. That rule, that IPR, that registration gives you the right over that particular folklore form. That is the thing. But protection of folklore means protect in the society, or safeguard in the society, or conserve that in the society for the sustentation of that particular folklore form is exactly the protection. But that protection, these people can't do that, because through IPR and these other right, only you can protect the right of our folklore, who possesses folklore. And once you get registered some folklore, it will be your property. It's a property right. So it never related to the sustentation of that this particular folklore form. Whether you get an IPR or not, it never affect this sustenation of that particular folklore form, because that is in the society and that is in the community, and that community doesn't want that the particular folklore form, it has no function, then it will execute. So you had to understand this separately, that protection of the right over folklore and protection of folklore both are in the pretext of that in the beginning 1952 onwards, they were talking about the protection of folklore and conservation, preservation, and safeguard of folklore. But at last, they reached that protection of the right of folklore, right over folklore. There ends the matter. It is nothing to do with this protection of folklore. Yeah, I think it's a tricky way that this international agency satisfied this community or somebody. No, it is nothing to do with the protection of this particular folklore or folk. So it's a tricky way to that they let this subject. Initially, 1989, they were talking about the protection of the folklore, but by 1999, they are talking about the right over folklore, protection of the right over folklore. Whose property is that? International, when it moves from nation to nation, it creates so many problems, right problems. So we had to have this some kind of international rule to make this more transparency. That is why they wanted to put this one. So that question is something very important. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can have one more questions and then we can go to the subject now. Today's subject.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we told that UNESCO is telling that traditional this intangible culture is like that definition. But what nowadays we are in 21st century, we can extend our definition little more now. What we are, sir, actually, we are having a commerce and all. We can extend for that also, sir. This folklore, what, because folklore means community.
Yeah.
Community
Okay.
product. Community
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
We can include that also, no, sir.
Yeah.
Why we are stand there only? Why we are standing there only, sir? Only culture, folk, song, dance. That we can little bit extend more. We can include all the things in folklore because all the things are people product only, sir.
Yeah, that is why this they have this international agencies also having this idea. That is why they wanted to simultaneously they wanted to use the popular culture and traditional culture as equalizing with folklore, and then all these item comes under law come under this definition of folklore. That is already done by this UNESCO and these agencies. They already done that. And at last, they don't have this folklore. That is happening too. That is why in the intangible cultural heritage also, now in definition of folklore also, they put this in bracket that it is a traditional culture and popular culture. Popular, this one. So they wanted to elaborate this area. This one, what all comprises in folklore. So that is already done. Only because of that, by that, whether we can sustain this discipline, that is another question. It is not the problem of we don't have data. We have enough of data, but the problem is that how to tackle this data, how to make it make an analysis, and how to interpret, and what for that interpretation. Like that, so many questions behind that, and that make more complex this subject. So Okay. I think we can now enter into this one only 57, and we can start with this one. Why not? Shivakumar, you put that. Okay. Now let us start today's this one. Yeah. Yeah, today the subject is that future of folklore and folkloristics. Let us discuss on this issue, folklore and folkloristics, because technically we can't claim that there is folklore and therefore no folkloristics, also folklore studies of folkloristics hereafter. Technically, then. So, what is the future of that? We had to discuss this serious issue. We have data. Now, folklore as a discipline, we have data. For this research process, we need data. Components are data. That data is folklore. We had to talk about that. What is the present condition, present situation of folklore as data? So, as a discipline, we need two things. We need some kind of data, and moreover, we need research process also. Research process on which we can apply that research. Through that research process, the data can be analyzed or interpreted. So, folklore as a data, it demands specific research process. That is the main thing we want to discuss in this one. That in between, we discuss in detail what happens to folklore internationally, and those things will come later. But basically, what is folklore as an academic folklore? As a discipline. As a discipline, it is not at all a discipline so far. That is the problem. Now, a discipline should have, I explained, I think, earlier that it demands three things. One is data, the other one is the methodology, and the third one is objectives. One has to be clear, one has to clearly define all these three things, then only that subject can be attained the status of a discipline. So, the status of the discipline, status of folklore, whether it is discipline or not, we had to decide. Not we already decided. That means when we look in the history of folkloristics and folklore studies, except a few studies, all other studies are come under this one. It has no objectives, and therefore it has no methodology of its own, and that is why only data is defined. What is the data of folklore? That is defined. That is then most of our definition of folklore is on that. What is folklore? What is folklore as data? And folklore is a matter of the subject, subject matter. So that is why in the initially we discussed the matter and told stated that folklore is a humanities subject, not a social science. That is the thing. Next one. Yeah. With future of folklore, let us come to that. No more folklore in a globalized world is a folklore in a globalized world is a misconception. No more folklore in a globalized world is a misconception. When we look at the earlier history of folkloristics and its feature, we can see that folklore is nostalgic. Folklore is nostalgic. It is a misconception. It is created by it is of cultural evolution theory made it possible like that. In that context, it was decided like that. So you see all these things, transformation ability of folklore in the context of liberalization, everlasting process of text formation, Allenden's concept of folk and folklore. These are the things that we have to take into consideration when we discuss the matter that future of folklore. Folklore is nostalgic. No, today it is not like that. No, as internationally, when we say that, it is not like that. There is something more than that. It is of cultural evolution. Cultural evolution theory, we had to discuss it. We already discussed cultural evolution theory. On the basis of that, we have some understanding about folklore as a discipline, as a subject of study. Then about transformation of ability of folklore, we had to consider in this discussion, because it transforms. Transformation means formal change. It takes a new shape. Folklore, in its due course, sometimes it gets new form. That process is called transformational process. That is why Levi-Strauss talk about this myth. He used this terminology, that term, that transformation. Yeah, myth has so many transformation. Through transformation, that a myth reached today by in a long journey having so many transformations because of the structural pressure, social or this historical or any kind of pressure. It gets new transformation of myth. In the same way, transformation takes folklore has that ability, transformation ability. We have to consider that. Folklore in the context of liberalization. What happens to folklore in the context of liberalization? That is, for this, we are living in a context of globalization, and globalization is possible only because of that liberalization. And folklore is the part of the life, and any liberalization process has its own impact on the life of the folk. That means folklore. So what is the impact of folklore in the context of liberalization? That also is we had to discuss. Everlasting process of text formation. That is another feature of folklore. A folklore is a lively one. The testos for a folklore is as a lively one is that how much text it can be created. Its ability to create any number of texts, numerous texts, it can be created, a lively one. If it is not possible, a particular folklore form cannot create any new text. That means it is already dead. It is the last one. That is the problem with this one. Then we had to discuss the Allenden's concept of folklore, folk and folklore. So in this one, when we talk about this future of folklore, next one. Yeah, folklore in the context of liberalization. Before that, anything missed? Any so, yeah. Yeah, you had to take care because this jumping may come. globalization, we had to consider before this the situation, social, political, and economic situation all over the world. In that particular context, a discipline or a subject of study is emerging, and it goes sometimes, and it leave the scene of academic scene. So, without considering what is happening outside the whole world, it is very difficult to understand a particular discipline or a subject. So, globalization is a reality. Now, we know that everybody used to say that globalization is a reality. It is a reality, as all of us know. Then, it affects almost all parts of our life. So, it's a reality. Diverse culture, folklore either disappear or take new shape to satisfy the attributed function. Diverse culture of folklore, diverse folklore either disappear or take new shape to satisfy the attributed function. Sometimes function is somewhat constant as far as human beings are concerned. As I told earlier, that we have only 5 organs, and our experience are related to that 5 organs, and we are satisfying these impulses of these 5 organs, and that is life. So function, in that respect, function of any folklore or anything is something related to this one. So what function can be considered as somewhat not fully, somewhat static, or it's a fixed one. So diverse culture bar folklore either disappear or take new shape to satisfy the attributed function. If a new function is coming, attributed function is coming, the same folklore get new shape or transformation to satisfy the existing new situation that is happening in our life. Man is a culture. Man is a culture folklore creating animal. No, that is the only species that in this world that who can create a culture. That is the definition of one of the definition of human species is that humans are the being having this power of having this creating culture. So we can define it as a culture creating animal, or in our respect, it is folklore creating animal. So in a liberalized situation, folklore demands an aerial space. So that is a new folklore is being created. What happened? Yeah, hang in. 1 minute. Yeah, something happened. Don't worry. Yeah. It will come. Yeah. Yeah. Something happened. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry that some interruption that is hanging. It's this one. So I will come after some time. If I take this 1 minute.
Raghavan sir, we are able to see the slide.
It's not opened. Okay. Okay, it is okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So, in a liberalized situation, folklore demands an aerial space in the new situation. So, we have to define our folklore in such a way that to accommodate this new situation that in the case of folklore, it gets, as I already told this, it gets new, this form, transformation or something, change or something, we have to accommodate. Our definition won't allow that. Our old definition of folklore is something confined to a particular geographical space. That is why it is very difficult to deal with the new idea of a new folklore, to accommodate new folklore that is created in the new liberalized, globalized, and industrialized reality. So, for example, now there are so many groups that we can't find out any geographical settings behind that. It is not confined to geographical situation. So, for example, maybe this pilots all over the world. They have their own pattern, their own behavioral pattern, and they have folklore, they have folk tales, and they have so many new folklore. They convey themselves among themselves. That is that they becomes a community. That community, where is now when we talk about the confined to geographical area of that particular community, we can't, because it is somebody is from America, somebody from Gulf, somebody from Germany, somebody from India, and they unite together and become a folk, and they communicate each other. As far as the definition of folklore is concerned, this communication, sharing is very important. That sharing is there, then we have to consider as folklore. But the problem is that our definition of folklore is confined to geographical area. So we had to how we are going to accommodate this new situation that is folklore. That is why I call it as aerial folklore. That also possible in the new situation. Yeah, for example, we have this so many job, people who are employing, who are doing jobs. They unite together. Even the CITU or INTUC. So all these are not confined to a particular this one. So let us say this medical representative. We can identify them by look itself, a representative of a company. So they have the behavioral pattern, and they are not from the same area, so geographical area. So They are from different area, and therefore we can consider them, but they have this, they share themselves some behavioral pattern. They share folklore, their own law. So it is also part of folklore, and how we are going to accommodate that. So we have to call it as sometimes a real folklore. If humanity is there, until humanity is there, folklore also should be there. This is another matter that we have to bear in mind. If humanity is there, because I explained earlier also that man is a social animal. Without society, society means more than one people. But technically, when we define that, more than one people communicate each other, and then it becomes society. So that is why Alan Dundas came forward with the definition of folklore as it consists of two people, and they share among themselves something. Then it can be called as folklore. The same way. So we can see that now, as we are afraid of this extinguishing folklore, or folklore will be no more hereafter, because globalization is through unification, all folklore forms won't be sustained hereafter. It is not like that. Somehow or other, folklore, as human beings are social animal, part of social animal, so they create, without communication, they can't. Now, for communication, it's a sharing. It's an agreement that if I say a word, if that word has, it is a symbolic representation of sound, that sound is, I convey that, make that sound, and it is identified, and it is taken, and it is decoded, and the other one gets the meaning. So that is sharing. The common factor is that that particular sound is common to each other, and I and him, he also sharing that. He and I share that. That is why it's a part of communication. So folklore is a, that's why Dan Ben-Amos was so particular about his definition that folklore is communication. So communication is the base of the thing, and it makes sharing, and it gives them this tradition and everything. That is why that also is very important as far as when you can this evaluating this future of folklore. Next one. No more folklore in a globalized world is a misconception. So that is why we can say that in a globalized world, there is no folklore. That is a misconception. Until and unless humanity is in this world, folklore should be there. Without communication, without sharing, no human being can. How far it is vast. How many people belongs to a particular group, that is not the concern. But without communication, without sharing, human being cannot live in this world. So folklore is all the time. Folklore will be there. Then why we are discussing this matter? Folklore is no more. That won't happen. So it's a misconception in that respect. Folklore is nostalgic misconception. It is it is earlier one. It's a change. Really change. Next one. Shivkumar. The earlier one. Next one. Yeah. This next one. Yeah. This one is folklore in the context of liberalization. So, as I explained earlier, in a liberalized society, that moving towards globalization, 3 types of folklore will be there. Apart from the traditional folklore, And that is something explained by so many definitions. But in addition to that, we have getting new aerial space folklore. That is one thing. And specific geographic space folklore, then transformed folklore also. Folklore get into new folklore is introduced through transformation, because in that particular case, it cannot sustain in that particular situation, and it get a transformed shape, form, and appear. So three kinds of folklore that we have in the context of liberalization. That is the thing. Next one. So you see, I'm a little bit explaining what is aerial folk and aerial folklore. You see, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are individuals. Individual 1, individual 2, individual 3, and individual 4. They are not confined to any geographical area, that is, I put somewhere in upside. So they wanted to create, because their profession by something or something, they are interrelated, and they wanted to communicate. They create some symbolic system, and they share among themselves. Then it becomes aerial folk. So L1, I1, individual, I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, and so on. They create similar things. No? They share similar things, and they feel themselves they are part and parcel of something. Then we can call, as it is not binded or confined to a particular geographic area, it is somewhere in the aerial space. The space of that folklore is something not geographical, it is aerial space. So we can call it as aerial folk. Aerial folk is in aerial space. And that aerial folk, if once aerial folk is created, for some reason, then after they create so many folklore, one after another, and they become a strong group. Then they feel themselves that they are part and parcel of something. Then that is called aerial folklore. Individual having common sharing from different geographical space is not geographical, that is aerial space. It is a wrong term. Space is this one. No, in the case of sometimes, as I gave example of medical representatives, they are becoming a group, then different geographical area. That is why I put this in the I is like that, not a real one, because they can't claim any geographical area. One is from Delhi, one is from Bangalore, one is from Hyderabad or interior village or somebody from there. They share commonly share something. Then it can be called as folklore, and that also is aerial folklore can be two ways. This one, okay. Then next. Folklore in the context of liberalization. Yeah, it is a repetition. No. Very text, spatial and temporal. When we consider the future of folklore, all these facts we have to put it in mind, and then only we can talk about this. What will be the condition of folklore tomorrow? What will be its future? Without understanding the future of folklore, it is very, in the present day, we can't predict or we can't assess or assume what will happen tomorrow. So that is why I'm trying to give these details of the present situation of folklore. Transformed folklore, that is very text, spatial and temporal, folklorism, industrialized folklore and commodified folklore. That is, I use the word transformed folklore. folklore in maybe somewhat disguised form. Real folklore, there is a real folklore. That real folklore getting varied text, spatial and temporal text, and through some transformation. And next one is folklorism. Folklorism is, it gets a new shape, new form, and new function and everything, but origin is a real folklore form. Then it is out of context and outside the context, and then we used to say that it is folklore form, it is also transformed folklore. Then we have industrialized folklore and commodified folklore. As I explained earlier, that I think in last class also, industrialized folklore means, what I understand is, if you take a folklore as raw material and put it in the industry, then it produces some products, then it is called industrialized folklore. A new terminology we have to have, then only we can understand this one. And commodified folklore is that directly what the folklore, that a particular folk as part of their life for the last so many years, so many centuries, sometimes they keep that particular folklore, and by this time that folklore has no much impact on that society and its function also. Then it moves outside as a commodity. Somebody from different group, they wanted to take this one as a commodity and market it directly without without industrial process. Then it is commodified folklore, a new terminology we have to have. In future, without this concept, we can't go further. Next one. Next one. Now, so far we are talking about the data. What happens to the data of folklore? Folklore data. All these slides describes what happens to the data as far as folklore is concerned. Now let us go to this knowledge system, folkloristics or folklore studies. Then we had to consider what is the future of that, what kind of understanding we have to have. So it is the same thing that I already explained the first class or second session, I think. Next one, I don't want to go in detail again. It is the same thing we explained earlier. This is also the thing that the folklore, somebody asked this question, I think. Folklore as data and academic folklore. The term folklore nowadays, for the last so many last 1 or 2 centuries, we use this in this context, concept that folklore, one word has 2 meanings. That is folklore as data and academic folklore, studies in folklore. Then academic folklore can be divided into 2. That is folklore studies, part of humanities, and folkloristic, that is part of social science. That is very rare that we have. We can give example only 1 or 2. That is mainly given by Allen and Dess. Okay, next one. Folklore studies. Any kind of academic exercise on folklore data can be considered as folklore studies. That is the difference between folkloristics and folklore studies, is that data is this constant one. You can approach that, you can put, and you can study that with the aids of any kind of this one, that is technically we call inductive method. You can, or descriptive method or inductive method, you can explain that, you can describe, or you can make analysis or interpretation with your own will and wish. That is as an academic exercise on folklore data. Well, their data is folklore. Any methodology you are able to use, because your objective is depending upon the problem that you have. So according to the problem, some methodology that suit for this solving the problem, that is there. So you can definitely specifically say that this is the methodology that folklore is having, folklore studies is having. It is not easy. The same thing as literature and art. You can study, you can look up, you can analyze or interpret a literature in your own way, with taking the help of, getting the help of so many principles and concepts from other earlier scholars, or you can create these things by yourself and apply on that, and then you can understand that meaning of that, or this identification of that particular folklore. So that is possible. So that is folklore studies. So we can insist that this is the methodology you have to adopt, or this is the objective of the folklore that you have to own, that you have to study folklore. We can't. Only the thing with the folklore that we can make sure that folklore data for folklore studies is folklore. Folklore is the data. No other thing is static or in the strict, and somebody has to follow. Next one. Any discipline should have its own specific definition for the following. Now let us see whether we wanted to, at least we had to say that and find out that folklore is not a discipline at all. Because any discipline, if it wants to be a discipline, it has these four things. There should be clear-cut definition on these such things. The first one is, what is the subject? Then what is the object? And objective or meaning. Then methodology. These things. The subject means what is the problem that, actually it is a feeling of subject. Subject is one who do research. You have to that is very crucial in any production of knowledge. So you have to define who is folklorist. You have to define that, and what is the data you are going to decipher, you are going to analyze or interpret. That is object of the research, production of knowledge. Then objective or meaning. Two kinds of things are objectives, either objective or meaning. Find out these, either of these. That is the aim of your study. A particular a discipline has its own. For example, anthropology, not now. In the initial stage, they defined anthropology in such a way that it is the study of human species. To understand what is human species means it is special that what is special to these humanities, human being. It is different from, it is its own existence, and it is different from these other species, flora and fauna, any other thing. So you have to define what is that species is, find out that. So physically and culturally, this you have to define what is human beings are. So this is the objective of anthropology. In the same way, when we consider what is, we ask the question, what is the ultimate goal of a folklore study? We can't answer for that. Then, what is the objective of folklore study? Even though Alan has told like that, but whatever we understood and whatever we are doing all these years, still doing is that we are doing some research. That is when we ask what is your object, no, not your objective. What is the objective of the discipline folklore? No answer for that. That means it is not a discipline. And if you have a specific objective, or to reach some kind of meaning, the problem asked, if you ask some problems such as what, why, how, like this, when all these question tag you create out of your problem, and accordingly you have to reach you have to answer that question, then the research ends. And when it communicated with other people, the research ends, the production of knowledge ends. Then, if you have an objective, the subject has, a particular subject has an objective of its own. But as far as sociology has its own objective, psychology has its own objective. That is why it is called as social science. But as far as folklore is concerned, what is the objective? No. Then methodology is to attain the goal. That means objective of meaning. How you are going to solve your problem. From problem to the answer, there is so many process in between. The methodology is that process. So you have to define that what kind of a process that I am going to reach my intention, that is objective. Then folklore has its own, not having any its own methodology. We are using so many methodologies because our objective is our own, the particular researcher, and he choose some of the method or so many methods from other disciplines, and we put together and we find out our answer for that. So it is part of it. That's why we can call it as humanities, not a discipline. Okay, next one. Yeah. Before that, one more, I think. Not hermeneutics. Before that. Yeah. Next one. Next one. Okay. When we epistemological way of understanding this research for production of knowledge is that structural components of any folklore research. There should be a subject, I already told. That means as a researcher, and there should be an object, what to be analyzed or what to be interpreted, what is being interpreted. And the third component is objectives or meaning. This is common to all research all over the world. Without these are the three components. And subject select theories and concepts and apply on the object. That is called how you are going to apply theories and concepts on particular object is called methodology. I don't have much time to explain this because we have limited time. So this is the way that we had to explain this hermeneutically hermeneutics of this any kind of these things. Next one. Academic folklore. Role of subject. Now I am coming with the role of subject, role of object, role of this objectives or meaning. The first one is academic folklore. When we consider the academic folklore, we have four components mainly. Number four, there are also after data collection also is there. Problem. Start with a problem, and then research question. It moves towards the research question. Then it goes to hypothesis. That means this may be the reason, the answer for this my question. That is called hypothesis or this objectives. Then accordingly, now I assumed that this is the answer for my question. Accordingly, to prove that hypothesis is all right, that answer is right, if it is a field science, I go to the field. Otherwise, we had to go to library and data collection. Primary source or secondary source, we had to collect data. The next one. Then analysis, that is categorization of identifying data, or it can be called as categorization of data. It is a kind of knowledge. And next one is next step is that interpretation. If you want to get the meaning, then you have to go for interpretation. And last communicate with the fellow academicians or the rest of the world, that is called presentation. So this is the academic process that we are having with any subject, science or social science or humanities. This is the structure of any research production of knowledge. Next one. Now, I explained what is a discipline. And folklore is a discipline. Let us see what is the subject of folklore. Active role of folklore researcher in realizing research problem and in the formation of hypothesis objectives. If it want to be a discipline, so far we are doing as a humanities. If you want make it a discipline, the researcher, the subject, he has to feel some problem and formation of hypotheses and objectives. And what is the object of the research as far as folklore is concerned? Any kind of folklore text with the context, spatial and temporal context. That is the thing. That is the difference between us. Now, when we consider this folklore studies and folkloristics, in the case of folkloristics, a text won't be enough. A text with the context is a must, because text won't give any meaning to you as far as the concerned societies or community or folk is concerned. So you have to collect the text with the context. That is the object of study. And the objectives of study is establish the relationship between the specific folk and its lore, or vice versa. That should be the objectives of any folklore research if you want to make folklore as a discipline. A relationship between what you are going to clarify, what you are going to analyze, what you are going to interpret is that the relationship between the specific folk and its lore, or vice versa. Otherwise, it is nothing to do with this. Then it gives so many problems that where do we put this structural study? That question is there. I think we'll discuss later if somebody asks such a question, because it's a problem. A study that is an intrinsic one, never consider outside or never consider its function or not anything, then how can we can find out this relationship between the specific folk and its lore? That is the bond between these two. That is that should be the this objective of folkloristics as a discipline. Methodology, then what should be the method? What will be the methodology then? Procedure, same as other disciplines. The same procedure. That is why I showed the models of hermeneutics. Genre is not in that. Another thing that we have to consider when, special to folklore, is that we have to understand that a folklore generic study won't stand in this one as such. A generic study, in an intrinsic view of understanding the particular genre, won't come under this one, because any generic study leads to intergeneric, because it has no existence of any genre has its own existence. It is related to another genre. It is among other genres. So generic study, what we followed so far based on genre, that won't be enough further in future if you want to keep it as a discipline. Data is the deciding factor in adopting methodology for for analysis or this one. So that is the thing. Data is very important as far as folkloristics is concerned. It decides what kind of methodology you have to adopt. Next one. Process of folklore research. That is, you see, as we see, there is an object that to be studied, that is maybe folklore, and that object is a text with a context. That text is inside a particular context. That is inside among the all other genres, and moreover, the reflexivity is there in that this one. Reflexivity means something, this attitude towards that, while looking at this, its own attribute to the object. So a text is not by itself. That I don't want to, because it is a serious thing. Now, if you want more explanation, more time to elaborate it, I don't have time. So let us move. Anyway, object, no. It moves towards the subject. And from there, through the application of theories and concepts, that is called methodology, you get the objectives and meaning. That is the way we had to do the folklore production of knowledge in the folkloristics. Then the methodology that we have to choose is if it is it is not mine, it is maybe, I think Alan is also telling the same thing. The methodology that we can have is for folkloristics is a deductive one, not inductive one. For folklore studies, inductive method is that we use. In the case of folkloristics, it should be a deductive method. You have to find out the relationship between the text and this, the text and the creator of the text, that is folk and folklore. That for that, that intrinsic way of understanding thing is needed. That is why we need a deductive way of understanding, deductive method. Okay, next one. Folklore as a discipline. So what is the subjectivity and objectivity as far as folklore research is concerned as a discipline? So whatever I have given in this in green, it is subjective. Whatever given in red is objectivity, but the other one is subjectivity. It's a culmination. It is a continuation of initially it is something subjective. All your research process that you are doing is in initial stage, it is somewhat subjective, but when we reach this analysis, interpretation, presentation, it should be objective, otherwise it cannot be a science, part of social science. Science demands that. If something can be called as science, because objectivity is very, very important as far as social science is concerned. Empiricism is not so easy to do that empiricism, so that we can leave. But objectivity is very, very particular as far as science is concerned. If you want to make folklore as a social science, you have to at least, while analyzing, while interpreting, while presenting, it should be objective. In the initial stage, you have a problem, then research question, then hypothesis, and data collection. You are not so free, but you are considerably, you can have subjectivity at certain extent. So folkloristics, if you want to make this folklore as a discipline, that means you want to consider make this folklore as a discipline. You have to do such things. That means in the initial part, it is subjective. The whole process that you are going through is subjective, and the next part is objective. That is the only possibility that we have as folklore is concerned. Next one. So folklore as a discipline, alternative model for production of knowledge. Then I read this and then we can go little bit speedy. Innovation of universal principles through generalization of diverse realities considered as production of knowledge. Yeah, that is the thing. Innovation of universal principle through generalization of diverse reality. What we are doing, all social science are, even science are also doing is, this universe is a diverse one. From that diverse reality. So what we are going to do for the production of knowledge is that we collect data, a diverse reality data. And the process of generalization, next step. Through process of generalization, we reach some universal principles. This is the simple way of understanding production of knowledge. Then, as far as folklore is concerned, in my opinion, is that asked to universal principles that how and why diverse manifestation to universal principles happen. This is the question that, as far as folkloristics is concerned, we have to ask the question in not in the other way, because all other social sciences are finding out these universal principles, and our duty as a social scientist is that why no, we are not denying the universal principles, we are approving that, and we wanted to know, our duty is that how this universal principle is getting diverse form manifestations in this universe. That is the thing in reverse. So once the universal principle is innovated from diverse reality, instead of going the application of that always science, what they are doing is that all social science and science doing is that once they find out, innovated a new principle, they go next step is to application of that one on the reality where they found out this innovation. That is called application science or social science, and this technology. So instead of that, the duty of the responsibility of this folklorist may be, he has to ask the question, you found out the principle from diverse reality, and as a folklorist, I am going to ask another question to this one, that why this universal principle got various kind of manifestations, diverse manifestation in this universe. From where you got this principle? It's the other way, this is another direction, the quite opposite direction that folklorists can ask the question. Then you get the diverse principle. Instead of once this universal principle is found out, innovated, then the second step, the science and technology goes to technology, and instead of that, the folklorist can ask now, come back to the diversity and ask through asking the question, why these universal principles got different manifestation in this world. This is the thing that we can have. That is if you want to have to make it as a discipline, it is the way, I think, because we feel that diversity, in our way, diversity is very, very important as far as folklore is concerned, as a subject also. Innovation of diversity principle, that is, I explained already how we are innovating from there. Then if you ask the question that our problem will be then you ask what is the objective of folkloristics is that to find out the principle of diversity instead of the principle of universal principles. So it is quite opposite to the other disciplines. Application of diversity principle on diverse reality. Then somebody may ask the question that we are against this one, against technology, against industry, and against this new product, and against development. Always that is the question that we face from the public, that folklorists are, they are always against this development. But our problem is that application of diversity principle on diverse reality, that is the technology that a folkloristics can do. Then you get a new technology that is emphasized on the diverse reality, and it leads to an upliftment model of development. That is why in the beginning itself I put that diverse principle and this upliftment model of development. Because if you want to have an upliftment model of development, you have to create a knowledge that backing this principle, this your idea. So instead of from the universal principle, you find out the diversity principle, and that diversity principle leads to a technology that diversity technology, and that technology can be put in the industry. Then you get a product that is confined to that particular geographical area or cultural area. That is a new industry will be it will be created, and a new development system can be. So ideologically we have to accept that. Then only we can do that. No, it leads to a new vertical text to diverse reality. Time and again. That means what diversity text on which we put our knowledge or study, it gets through this. That means find out the diversity principle and application of that diversity principle on the diverse reality, and accordingly that diversity reality takes a new shape and it develops. That is upliftment. It changes. It gets next up as this industrialization did, parallel to that. It is nothing but uplifting model for development. That is, I already explained. Next one. Okay. Relevance of folkloristics in the context of model of uplifting model of development. Folkloristics is in search of the principle of diverse reality. So we have to accept that. If you consider folklore as a discipline, you have to accept that folkloristics is in search of the principle of diverse reality instead of those other disciplines are in search of the universal principles. We are in search of a diverse principle. That is the contrary to these other sciences and folklore as a science. So folkloristics is in search of meaning of a text in relation to surrounding text. So the methodology that we can have is that a text in relation to the surrounding text, how we can find out meaning, create meaning out of the text. You are going to study some text. It is not in isolation, because the message, when you consider, sometimes the message in that particular text is shared with other. Some part of the message will be given in some other channels. So it is this genre, folkloristics in search of the relevance of a genre in relation to all other genres. So folkloristics, if you want to practice folkloristics, you can't do the same way of understanding or studying folklore genre. For example, ballad. Particular ballad you take and the principles of ballot and everything you have, and you cultural data also is there. Then you are analyzing that, and you get the research, this result at last. But if you want to make a science, then intergeneric research is a must, because no genre is in isolation. We have to think about that. Life is not compartmental. So, for the understanding for the time being, without genre, we can't do research. Without a unit, you can't do any research in science or social science. That is why, if you want to produce some knowledge in science or social science, you have to stop the movement for a while and cut it into pieces and find out the unit, and then assume the system that works inside. It's an assumption, not as such very difficult. So that is the way of scientific way of understanding in science and social science. So we have to do this like that. Now let us come to as a subject of a researcher. What is the role of the researcher in folkloristics then? The role of the researcher is active only in realizing the problem, formulating research questions, and creating hypotheses. There ends is subjectivity. If you want to make folkloristics as a discipline, as a social science, your subjectivity will be working only in realizing problem, because as a human being, as a part and parcel of, and as an individual, you are part and parcel of the society and part and parcel of the universe. You can feel some problem, you can experience some problem, and accordingly formulating research questions out of that problem and creating hypotheses. That is your freedom. Up to that only. Then object, we have to explain the object. What is the data for the research? That is the object. Folk and folklore. Not only either folklore or folk or both. Is active only realizing the bad. Yeah. Object decides what kind of method shall be employed for analysis, interpretation, and presentation. The rest of the thing, object decides, not the subject. As other social science, the subject researcher decides what kind of methodology may be adopted and what all concepts can be adopted for the analysis and interpretation of the data. In this case, we have to restrict ourselves. We become a mere, not mere, like an observer. What happens to the text? Inside the text, what happens? We are observing that. We are observing that and analyzing that. According to that observation, what happens inside? In that way, we can have a scientific research. So, interpretation and presentation, it is something not subjective, make it more objective. The ultimate goal of folkloristics is to find out the diversity of a particular group of people who are folklore specific, who share among themselves their lore. The ultimate goal of folkloristics is to find out diversity of a particular group of people, how they are different from other groups. That is why Alan Landers makes such a definition for folklore. That is the thing. Next one. This is alternative model that I already explained earlier, that I don't want to do it again. We don't have much time. That is that diversity from diverse reality through generalization, what I already explained. generalization, when we reach universal principles, and that university principle manifested in different diverse reality, then look into that, analyzing that, or analyzing that, we can find out the basic principle of diversity principle. It is can be called as diversity principles, and application of that diversity principle on diverse reality, you get new diverse reality, diverse new text out of that earlier text. You can change the text. That is development. It is an upliftment model of development. Folklorists can follow this kind of a development, that the whole academic work can support this kind of a. It resulted into the support of this kind of an upliftment development. Okay, then next. I am not going to deal with now, because we have tomorrow. We are going to do this one, and I think the last part is that if is it possible to have a new term for folklore, we can substitute not only UNESCO, we can also do that. Why not? That's for that, this definition we can make use of. Next one, I will explain there. Because that terminology, I thought it is not needed. Now I thought it is better to have that kind of a session also in this, because you are showing much interest in this workshop. So I thought last part of that we can discuss that also. That is why I put this definition here. Now, as I have that the last session we have that discussion, so it is apt there in that part, this new definition of folklore that we can put forward. Then folkloristics as a discipline. You see this diagram. Folkloristic as a discipline. Then methodology, data, objectives. These are the thing, as far as and what is the procedure that will be already explained. I am consolidating whatever we have done so far. Generalization, folklore in context, and coexisting with genres, but already I explained. Establish the relationship between folk and law, and vice versa, is the ultimate goal of folkloristics. That is the thing. Diverse reality to universal principle, and universal principle to diversity principle. That is in another direction, in reverse direction. That is the aim of an objectives of the folkloristics as far as it is concerned. Next one. It's finished. So this is, I don't want to go again in that establishing the, I'm doing the same thing, that how to establish, how to achieve this goal of the particular research. So next one, finished. Okay, this is the thing that I know that it is, I was so in a hurry. Now it is 8:10. Then, oh yeah, one more is there. One more, there's one. So I put it like this. The whole research, folkloristics, not folklore as humanities, folklore as a social science. Let me call, or let us call as folkloristics. What Alan has defined, I am extending that, elaborating that one. I took some liberty in that. Actually, it is the definition given by Alan Dundas, and that I am elaborating that in my own way, and I am indebted to Alan Dundas. That is why I put like that. No, devoted the whole. This one is devoted to Alan Dundas. So, problem leads to such question, and that leads to hypothesis, and we have DR1, diverse reality 1. Diverse reality 2, diverse reality 3, 4, and so on. And from that, in usual research, all other social sciences, what they do is they find out the universal principles. That is the aim and objectives of all social sciences except folkloristics. Then usually, when it is found out the presentation of that, the last part. That may be different kinds of presentation in written form, video form, audio form, or direct this. You can present this in a direct this debate. That also possible. In the case of when we talk about folkloristics, folkloristics starts with the universal principle. Already, it is established by earlier scholars, that is in science and social sciences, both science and social sciences. As far as traditional knowledge is concerned, it's part of the science, and when we are doing something on that traditional science, traditional knowledge, actually we are doing something in that science. So they already found out, innovated universal principle, and that universal principle has actually that what they are also doing the same in the other direction, that from diverse reality, through generalization, they reach universal principle. Once it is universal principles are found out, then what the duty, responsibility of the folkloristics is that they have this DR1, DR2, it is 2, 3, 4. It is a mistake that DR1, DR2, DR3, DR4, and so on. The same way, whatever there in the same reality is there, and we approach take that as a data and find out why these universal principles behind this diverse reality made it possible to manifest as DR1, DR2, DR3, and DR4, and so on. We found out universal principle out of that, diverse principle out of that. There is a universal, you are not denying this, the principle, universal principle, it is there. Without that, nothing will happen. But in reality, we have only diverse reality. That universal principle, in a diverse situation, context, it takes different shapes, manifested into different forms. That is DR1, DR2, DR3, and DR4. Then we are interested in why, that we ask the question why. Then we get the result that the principle we had diverse. How a universal principle manifested into, what is the rule behind that, behind creating, manifesting the diverse reality. So you get diversity principle 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. This is what actually this one presentation. Okay, that is there. I didn't put it there. Okay, next one. That is finished, I think. So it is finished. So now I wanted to go to the next one immediately, because I don't have much time, because tomorrow I had finished this one. Sorry that your mind is full of with so many concepts, and it is a new concepts also. So very difficult to follow. I know that. Sorry for that. This our system says like that, because it is designed in such a way that it will be finished within 10 days. Anyway, we extended for one more day, and tomorrow, only tomorrow, we have 2 more. This one, this PowerPoint. One is Alan. Yes, that is the pivotal of this workshop. So that is why I wanted to explain 2 definitions given. One is given by Alan and one is given by Dan Benamus. That is the crux of this workshop. From that I flourished, from that root, the whole this workshop and the idea created out of that root, and it get flowers like this. The whole idea from that. So I wanted to explain such a way that a small definition. How can we explain that? The definition is that who are the folk? Then he himself explained that we, among others. One definition. Then when was the smallest dimension for folklore, that is artistic communication among a small group. So 2 definitions. So conceptually, we have to analyze that. What is the concept behind this one? How we can define, how we can elaborate the whole this folkloristics, folklore as well as folkloristics. And that is one my effort, I think, hereafter. Okay, that you can Shivkumar. Yeah. Professor Reddy, anything to communicate? Hello. Net boy. Reddy sir net. Okay, then I will call him. Just 1 minute. Sorry that I had to talk with Reddy. Okay.
Sir, you are not audible, sir.
Your mic is muted.
No, I will take
Yes,
rest for 5 minutes, and you can also take 5 minutes rest. And I wanted to talk with Reddy also for some time. So 5 minutes break. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Phone please stay.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Nothing is audible, sir.
Hello.
Nothing is audible. I don't know what happened.
Break, sir, now.
Sir, break. It is
Oh,
break.
I'm sorry. I went out for a call to attend. So, okay. Good. Sorry. Hello, Raghavanji. Hello, Raghavan.
Ready. I am here.
Is it over?
Yeah, that over, and I am going to the next one.
Uh,
I
Sir,
gave
I
a
have
we
a
have
small
another half
question.
an hour. Another half an hour is there.
Yeah,
Whether you
yeah.
would like to.
Yeah, I had to finish because we had to, anyway, we had to finish this tomorrow because I don't have spend much time.
Okay. So we will continue the discussion.
Tomorrow we can by 6 o'clock. All by people request the people to come exactly 6, and we have 7 1 hour. That is enough for
Oh,
two. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Today only 13 people came by
No,
6:30.
it is left to you. First preference is yours.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah.
are
Okay.
continuing, continue. Otherwise, we will ask them to
No, then
participate
it
in
is a
that.
problem tomorrow to finish this one.
Ah,
Yeah, it is. We can go at least 9:15 or so. Then we can finish this today. Then we will be free tomorrow. Only one PowerPoint. Hmm? That will be good.
ah.
Okay.
No, you take decision here. We don't want to disturb you. No, you unmute your audio. Unmute your audio.
Yeah.
Ah.
Anyway, I already announced that I am going to have the next session after 5 minutes break. I have already
Okay.
told them. So that
Okay.
5 minutes is over. We can start the next session. Hmm?
Okay,
Okay.
then. Okay. Now I request the participants to react for the lecture. We have half an hour time. Please make use of it. Raghavanji, you are unmuting your audio.
ആരാ ഈ അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? നിങ്ങൾ അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടോ? Okay, I am going to continue the next one. Not a discussion nowadays because tomorrow we can't finish then. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No, someone would like to raise the questions.
No question today. I am going to finish next session also today itself.
Raghavanji, you have only one lecture here, no? Definition by Alan Anders and Benamos, no?
No, then there is another session. That is why this propose.
Or you do one thing. If you have to continue your lecture, please do it.
Yeah, I am going to continue. Already.
Okay, please continue. Please continue.
Okay, yeah. So it is very important that conceptual understanding of folklore by definition by Alan Dundas and Dan Ben Amos, because the whole this workshop and this my own suggestions and all this what I proposed is based on the definition given by these two scholars, especially Alan Dundas. So I have to explain what is the conceptual understanding of this definition, how to understand this definition. It is a small definition, but its connotation and denotation is more, and sometimes we have to adopt something from his earlier definition. In what all cases he is silent about something, then we have to incorporate that and fill up that part from the earlier definition, and that is the way I try to explain the conceptual understanding of this one. So what is identity? Because it's this definition, that is, before going to his definition, we have to understand that identity that is suit the definition of identity that suit for Allender's definition. That is, there is this individual and others are there, and their understanding about something make the cognized individual, and that leads to the identity of somebody or identity of something. So that is the principle of identity. I wanted to know, identity has so many explanations and other things, but I am in this context because what Allendendes came forward with this definition of his folklore definition, that this definition, this explanation is suit for his definition. That is why identity is something that somebody feels about. If a person wanted to have his own identity, it is his own feeling about himself, and at the same time what others feel about himself, and that together becomes make the identity of a particular person, particular of something. So it is a subjective way of understanding something, and the objective way means in this others, how they understand about that particular thing. Both put together, you get an idea about that, a consolidated understanding of that particular thing. That is the identity of that particular thing or particular person. This is the thing that I wanted to say initially. Then next one. You see the definition of Allendendes. Small definition, very, very tiny definition that we have. Among others, we are the folk. And we, in this definition, he didn't tell directly anything about the folklore, but no, we had to substitute that. No, we had to add those ideas from other definition, earlier definition, and his explanation that he has given in that particular article. Then, as shown in the figure, you see that yellow part is something that large social group, so many groups, and there are so many individuals also. And these individuals, in reality, no, society is a concept, but only individuals are there. Others means the individual that consists of that particular large social group is considered as others. And one who share folklore is that individual that is there. Folk is the consolidation of one who share folklore among themselves. So this what that round is folk. Inside that round, there are so many star forms. They are considered as individual. They unite together and they feel themselves we, and that we-ness, and we understand the outsiders, what all people are outside, and among them, what their understanding about it, they deviate, no, diverse. There is a diverse reality, and diverse way of understanding from others. The we feeling, that the individuals in a particular group, they feel that we Not only that we is the contrary to the larger social group, and then only it can be considered as a folk. That is this definition says. Okay, the next one. Then identity comes here. He never told anything about identity. His definition is that we among others. So we means so many individuals that I, because society is a conceptual one, individual is the reality, identity is the sum total of one's own consciousness about oneself and at the same time of others. So actually, this idea is taken by Alan Dulles of identity. This is not directly with Alan Dulles. This is identity. So this concept is borrowed by this. It was in his mind, this definition of this identity, and accordingly, that idea he borrowed and he made use of to analyze, define the folk. Next one. Yeah. Among others, we are the folk. The same diagram earlier for identity that I have given here again. Here also the same thing. As far as folklore, Alan Dulles is concerned, others are there inside that blue, this one. And there is we, that is inside that small rectangle. And there is so many individuals. Among that one individual is I have shown here. So all individuals unite together who share, who on the basis of the lore, they feel that we, that we-ness. At the same time, outside so many people are there. There's a larger group. Inside that larger group, these so few people feel themselves that we, these individuals are we, part and parcel of the we, then that is the folk. Next. Then we had to explain this little, elaborate this one. So, I, as far as this is concerned in grammar also and reality also, I means first person singular. I. Then we, that we made use of, when we use the word we, it is assumed, we can assume that without I, there is no we. So, we means first person inclusive. That not inclusive, exclusive, not inclusive. Exclusive, it is misinterpreted. Exclusive, because I and I and I and I, so many I's together, it is inclusively we can call as we. The problem is that in English we have only one word that is first person plural, that is we. But in Dravidian languages, we have inclusive pronoun and exclusive pronoun, that I and you have, you becoming I, we, and at the same time, I together becomes we. So two kinds of, one is called inclusive we, then other is called exclusive plural of first person, when a first person plural. Here we means first person inclusive, plural. Others means third person plural. So this is the content of this one. Technically, when we speak to understand this definition, we have to go for this. So there is first person singular, first person exclusive, third person plural. This is the component of this definition. According to this definition, A, identifying the folk by first person. That is implied. Who identify? Identifying the folk by first person, through whom we understand the folk. So it related to the methodology also. It gives an idea how Alan Dundas wanted to analyze this folklore, the methodology of folklore also. I think he assumed like he put that idea also inside that. Identifying the folk by first person. Who is identifying the folk? As far as this definition is concerned, not we. That is, we is a conceptual one. Actually, there are so many I, and that group becomes we. That means each I realize that we are the same, we are sharing the same, and we are one. Or I feels that we are together, and that becomes we. First person's cognition of the first person inclusive. That is exclusive, sorry. Then first person's cognition of the first person includes an exclusive with respect to the third person. Third person also. You have to consider the third person, how what they are. Then only we can have a diverse feeling, diverse cognition, diverse way of cognizing that reality. So, first person cognition of the first person exclusive with respect to the third person. This is identifying the way of identification of the identifying the folk by first person. So, only I and others are there, not we, which is conceptual word. I identifies folk as we through others. It is the subjective way of understanding. The whole definition says that folklore is, a folk is, how to identify a folk, objectively or subjectively. If I identify the folk, that means I, the subject, in a subjective way, it is my subjective understanding of the folk. And it is common to all I in that particular group, the same feeling, then it is called folklore, folk. That is his explanation for that. The next. Yeah, that's already I explained. Next. Before that one jumping. Yeah, next one. Yeah. Conceptual understanding of the definition. Then, as already explained earlier this session also, any discipline has these three things, then only it becomes a discipline. Pattern, method, objective or objectives. What is that as far as this definition of Alan Dundas definition is concerned? What all shared as we? The we-ness. What all shared by we, not as we, shared by we. It is called this data. So, method is, objective is identify that sharing group. Then naturally, it is an understanding, it is an effort to understand that who is that group, what is that group, identify that sharing group. To attain that goal, objective, what is the method to be followed as far as this definition is concerned is that identify through I. That means through individual among group. Among that particular group means we. Among we, there are I. That particular I is the person who identify the we on the basis of the sharing reality that is folklore. So any folklore study should be, according to the definition, it is a subjective way of understanding the thing, not the researcher, but the group. Group means the methodology should be your understanding about your efforts will be put to identify the reality through individuals of that particular group. So it decides the methodology also. I don't know how far you can within this short time without giving example. It is somewhat difficult. I don't know. Then there is a dialectical relation with others also, as far as data is concerned. How the diversity, it is diverse from the nearby realities, nearby folk, nearby people, others. Only in the light of the others, in the context of others, a particular group is having its own identity. So, in a folkloristics research, you have to consider others also. What others? You have to understand the nearby community and how far they are, how far this particular folk on which you are doing your research. For the time now, then you have to consider others also what they are. So it make more give more responsibility on the researcher, that he to understand the particular folk, he has to understand the nearby or surrounding folks also at certain extent. Then when we compare this generalization of the data collected from different individuals among we, then generalization is the knowledge, no doubt about that, whether it is universal principle or diversity principle. Then diverse principle, in all the cases, the way of understanding production of knowledge is based on generalization. No doubt about that, whether it is any kind of research. Without generalization, because data is in diverse, what all you collected is in diverse, and somehow on the basis of certain principles, you have to put together and generalize and make it one or two. That is the analytical process. In that respect, folklore also have to do the same. Folkloristics also do the same according to this definition. An objective is concerned, in a way, it is in search of the identity of a particular group. We, why we? Why he made such a definition? Because he is so particular about we, that we is a group, that is a folk. Why this we? What this we? How this we? And you have to inquire, you can get that the totality of that we group, that is folk. So by giving the definition, his intention was to the folkloristics. As far as folkloristics is concerned, in search of identity of a particular group is its aim or objective. Next one. Conceptual understanding of the definition and a position of the researcher then. That means subject of research. Who is a researcher then in folkloristics? We have to, what this, as far as the smallest definition that he has given, we have to assume from that definition, correlating data from earlier definition, we can say, we can find out something. One who experiencing the data from the field. He is the researcher. That means observing. Why I am telling like that? Alan Dedes never didn't say anything about that, but he told one thing. Through the how this folk, how the folk understand that we, Venus. It is through the understanding of several individuals, not we, That we is created by the understanding, by the feeling of the so many eyes put together. So the way to the methodology that we can have is that we have to approach this individual and their subjective understanding of the folk, we. So that means you have no right to put your own idea in this. So you are not in a certain extent, you are only an observer as far as the research process is concerned. You have to we have to assume from this definition. The next one who identifies the data through different eyes. He is the man who, a researcher is the man who identifies the data and analyze the data through different individuals in that particular group, because they are I, so many I together becoming we. So you can approach only I. I means their vision, their subjective, their way of understanding the folklore, the world, their approach towards their perception towards the outer reality is folklore. So it is a way of the subjective understanding of the group, the individual, individuals in that particular group. That means that makes the observer, makes the position of the researcher as observer. At a certain extent, what extent we have to decide, we have to discuss. One who is responsible to consolidate the data and generalize the data. He is the man responsible to consolidate. Actually, what is the responsibility? What they say. As an informant, we have no right as a researcher. No, we have some problem and we have to, on that we can ask something, and what they say we have to taken for granted, and accordingly we have to work on that. Next one. Source of data. Everything is that this assumption that given by this it is in this definition given by Alan Netter. Source of data. Data experienced as an observer of the field. That is one thing that we can do in this context, is that we have to observe the data as a outsider. You can observe what is happening. It is just looking, perceiving that thing without any inhibition. That is the thing as source of data. Individuals, that is eyes, in the respective field, they are informant. They give this source of data is individuals. We are getting data in a elaborate way by observing. Then the specification of the details of the data and understanding of the data through the individuals of that we, of that particular folk in respective field, that is that folk. He is the informant. I is the informant, not he. Then next one. Object of the study. Sharing facts among we, that is folklore. As far as is concerned, what they share, because we have to take this in that definition, it is not told like that, because we have to incorporate the idea that he already given in the earlier definition, that there's defining folk in respect of lore and lore in respect of folk. In that, this sharing comes. Who is the folk? Folk is sharing group, sharing facts among thee. That is folklore. What a group of people share among themselves, what is defined, that is defined as folklore. As far as this definition is concerned, we have to incorporate that data from earlier definition. It is conceptual also. Then that we is conceptual. Reality is I. We have to think about that. Tangible culture through observation. whatever tangible data we have to observe that. Intangible culture by itself, and behind that intangible, this is intangible culture by itself, and behind that tangible culture, two kinds of intangible culture, intangible folklore. That folklore is intangible, and that kind of intangible data you get by itself. That means belief system, maybe an intangible one. We can say performance, it is an intangible one. Even though it is seen, but it is intangible. And there are beliefs behind material culture, but it's tangible. Each and every material culture, there is a material culture exists in a particular folk with the help of either knowledge system or by belief system. Without either of this or both together, make live a particular folklore. So that is there, tangible and intangible culture, that's relationship. Okay. Method of study, then we come to method of study, mainly deductive. Because when you talk about this folklore studies in folklore or folklore studies, that is application of other principles from other principles from other disciplines, or even by folklore disciplines by earlier scholars or concepts, and apply that on this our own data, the collected data of folklore. Then it is an inductive method. So folklore studies always need inductive method. But as far as distinctiveness with this folklore studies and folkloristics, we had to go for deductive method. We had to find out truth by itself from that data itself without much help. No, it is not very strict, but because that is not possible also, because we are loaded with so many ideas and so many concepts and so many theories inside our mind, and it will influence. It has an so that is called reflexivity. That reflexivity will be there. We can't deny that. At certain extent, if you are so conscious about that, we can be away from that. But that is very, very difficult as far as research is concerned. So find out principles and find out reality, find out truth out of the data available. Folklore available itself is something deductive. Then inductive method may be a subsided one. That is also, without that, it is very difficult to understand anything. So it is part and parcel of the one researcher. Analysis mainly based on native category. That is also possible. That is we. The Venus spells all the we, the word used by Alan Dundas as we, proposes all these such things. Native category. How people analyze the data. That is very, very important, because you are supposed to look or understand the matter through the individuals of that particular society, or conceptually, when we conceptually, these are so many individuals, through that group, what they perceive. It is the responsibility of the researcher is in folkloristics is that how do they perceive, you had to collect. It is not your own, you are not free to collect your own way. What they perceive, you had to record. That is the problem with this method. Analysis mainly based on native category is that they have an analytical method, how to understand the matter. When we analyze the data in other way, when we analyze the data, this making use of Dawson's classification or RS-Box classification or any other classification, it is an imposed one. It is the it is the feeling, or it is the imposition of the researcher on the data. But in their life, part of their life, a folk used to identify each and everything in a peculiar way for their life. We are so particular about as far as folkloristics is concerned, because folkloristics is based on we had to consider that also native category. So there is a academic category and native category. Always folklore studies can be, they can use this academic category, that is genres. The genres that we have available is ballad, song, myth, like that. It is native. This is a category of the academic category. The academicians made that such a categorization, and whatever available in the real field, we collect those things and put these things and cut into put it in different this box and say that this is ballad, this is a epic, this is a song, like that. It is a category created by the academician for their sake. But in the life of the folk, they have their own this classification for this. How to understand that? How do they identify even a grass in front of their courtyard? If there is a plant, small plant, they identify that either as it is useless, or sometimes it is functional, and it gives its own name, and it is whether it is in a category like plant, or this tree, or this herb, or this like that. That classification according to the form also is there. So in folkloristics, Alan Dennis is so particular about we, the identification of the data, classification of the data should be in that way. How do the particular folk identify those realities? That is the thing. And the intergeneric approach also. This group is, in most of the case, because the genre is not in isolation. Each genre is knitted together. All genres are knitted together in certain way. And sometimes this part of the particular genre is message of the particular genre is kept it separate, and it moves to the other genre for some reason. Because we had to understand that also while studying the folklore, because unless we are not aware of that intergeneric approach, intergeneric relationship, and how that intergeneric relationship is in the mind of the people, in the understanding of the people, we have to understand. Then only our way of our this research is fruitful. So that is also very this one, because it is in the in a caste society is very, very important as far as caste society is concerned, because the caste society has this hierarchy, and you can't express your own a community which is come in lower level, especially in lower level, lower this hierarchy order. They have sometimes no right to express their feeling, which may be against the feeling of this higher community. They keep it that in a secret genre, and the rest, some part of that can be explained in some other genre. So while this there is secret genres are there, so many secret genres are there, and public genre, they can publicly express those genres. That genre. So that kind of generic approach, intergeneric approach, is very difficult, very important as far as this folklore is concerned, as far as Alan Dennis is concerned. The next one. Then the third one is objective of the study, to make it as a discipline. Objective of the study is implied one in the definition itself. That is group identity. Because we, the whole definition is the crux of the definition is on we. That means this is group identity. Why do they feel we? On certain, not only law, but there is an identity that is conceptual one, that is lower or visible one. But out of that lore, they feel they create an identity of themselves, and that is very important. That is called group identity. That is expressed through various genres of folklore of that particular community or folk. Identity manifested in respective genre. If it is a generic study, that is also possible, because if not only group identity, if you want to study a genre, and that genre also, that genre has some problem, and inside the genre, the identity is capsuled inside the genre. As far as this folkloristics is concerned, according to the definition of, we can assume from the definition given by Alan Denders, we can assume that this generic identity, genre, how far identity of the particular group is expressed through that genre. That also one of the objective of the folkloristics. So again, next. Folklore. Now that is I finished there. Then now let us come to this Dan Ben Amos. How it is related to this definition also. It is also small definition, and how far it is related to Alan Dender's definition, and the whole workshop that we are trying to have this one, that future of folklore and folkloristics. Then features of this definition. This definition is folklore is artistic communication among small group. Folklore is, the basic thing is that we wanted to say that folklore is communication. What is folklore? Folklore is nothing but communication. But not all communication, but artistic communication. This is something, there is so many system of communication, but the scientific communication is there, so many other communication is there. But artistic communication, that is the part of folklore. As far as folklore is concerned, it is an artistic one, but it is basically communication. Then, whose communication? The question comes. Communication of the group, among group, but not all group. The communication is there inside some, the communication system that we have. The Facebook is there. It's a social communication system. That it cannot be considered as folklore. According to this definition, communication of the group, not all group, but small group. If it is a small group, no, it is in the perspective of this globalization and postmodern thoughts. This definition comes. That is why this he is talking about this small group. Grand narratives are there. So he was so particular about this small group because it is a diverse one. That I think it will come next. Okay, next one. It's a functional definition then. Now, when we compare with the Alan Denders, this definition, Alan Denders' definition is about the content and this way of transmission and all those things. But this definition is a functional one. What it does? What is the function of a folklore? It says that it is an echo of culture is communication. Actually, before this, cultural anthropology used to say in two ways they explained, defined this one, communication, and this culture. That is, the culture is symbolic. The other one is culture is communication. In the same way, this Dan Ben Amos took this idea and defined folklore as communication. Naturally, it demands the given below explanation. Okay, next one. What's the time? No. 9? Yeah, 9, sir. Okay. So, that arrow mark has something happened because I don't know why it happens. Folklore is communication. So, we had to go in detail. Message. When we talk about communication, we had to take this idea. Now, the Dan Ben-Amos took this idea from communication theory. With the help of communication theory, that communication theory says that message is very important. Message, encoding of message happens. Encoding means put the message in a code, a particular code. That is called encoding. And next step is medium of communication. Encoding, after encoding the message, you can select according to the encoding, you have to select a medium of communication. That means any kind of energy, that is a sound system or any kind of energy, and that medium, through that medium, it reaches the destination. And next step is decoding. Decoding, what they decode? Decoding of the message, decoding this communication, whatever encoded is through decoding, you get the message. The message encoded by the encoder reaches the decoder. That is communication. So in between, so many things are there. We are not bothered about that. Then the question, what is the message? Then what is the code? Who is the encoder? What is the medium? Who is the decoder? What happening to the message? These serious question we had to answer as far as we were to borrow this idea from communication system. Okay, next one. Then I am not answering for that for the time being. Why artistic? Communication, he gave a adjective to the communication that it is an artistic communication. To specify that it is different from all other scientific communication systems, which are universals. No, all scientific communication that is available in this world are universals. It can be used by anybody all over the world. So as a communication system, you can use mobile as a communication medium, as an instrument of communication. Then you can send the message through the sound system, and it transforms into electrical system and electronic way of this one, and it moves that code, and it moves the other wherever it is in all over the world. Maybe somebody from in Japan, he receives that thing, this one energy that encoded this energy form of this thing. It's a symbolic way. Then he decodes, he gets the sounds, and he decodes and he gets the message. It's a scientific one. It is a universal system. Mobile system can be used by anybody. So in that way, he wanted to differentiate that scientific way of communication is not folklore. Universal way of communication is not folklore. The communication, the artistic communication is a community specific, and therefore it won't communicable to outsiders. That is why he wanted to put that artistic communication. Artistic means it is a symbolic system. Any art is symbolic system. That symbolic system will work only inside that particular community, group of people. So that is why he wanted to say that it is artistic communication. So it is a communication system inside a small group. So it cannot be conveyed or cannot be used by anybody outside. That communication won't work outside. So this idea is he wanted to express through this definition. Next one. Folklore is communication of who? According to his definition, communication among small groups. That is directly specified that among small groups. Not that means it is not a universal way of communication. It is not the nearby other communities. It will understand only that particular community. A folk performance, a ritual of a specific community, it won't be understood by nearby community, even nearby community. The sense that it gives to insiders of that particular community is specific. It can't be never communicated. It cannot be communicated to others. That is why folklore is not communicable to in international way or even nearby community also. That is why at a certain extent, when this is moving, some particular message, part of the message is communicable to the nearby community, and they will fascinated to take that inside their community, and they modify that and they create new text of that will be called as out of context in the beginning. After some time, it will become folklore also. So this is the understanding of this usage, that small group, specifying its dialectical relationship with the larger group. It is opposite. You can't consider a universal communication system as folklore, and you can't consider this as a universal communication system. A small, if the way when I see somebody on the way, is a good friend of mine, it's knowing person to me, I have to show that I noticed you. We have an expressive form for that in each and every community for that. If you go to the next society, it won't work. Sometimes he will be mistaken, and it will be a great quarrel sometimes. Why he insulted me? So that is the communication system that we have. It is inside communication system. It is not communicable to outside groups. So that is folklore. And it is not part of universal communication system. Okay, next one. Both definitions in comparison, you see. This table you see, I just read that, and if you have some doubt, you can clarify tomorrow. Otherwise, we don't have much time. In the first column, it is particulars. Second column, Allende's attitude toward that particular. Then Danben Amos and remarks also in the last column. Definition as such. What is given by Allende's and what is given by this one. Definition that covers data, objectives, and method by Allende's, whereas Danben Amos one is clearly a functional definition. As far as Allende's definition, in the remark column, it is given that Allende's definition was incorporated from earlier definition. Now, if you don't understand the earlier definition that he has given to folklore, it is not this definition, the definition that he has given through this definition, it is not complete one. You can't understand well. So that is the thing. In what way I have no time. Data, Data, as far as data is concerned, what this definition tells about data is lore of any group, as far as attendance is considered. Communication system of specific group, that is lore, as well functional. This one, Dan Benamo's definition. Remark, then it's a definition. Facts adopted from earlier something definition, that is something happened. No, earlier definition. For this data if you want to explain that is definition, we have to incorporate data, incorporate facts from earlier definition. Nature of the data: any lore shared by the specific group. Any lore shared by the specific group, almost same. It is implied in the current definition and earlier definition. It is implication. Both this definition and earlier definition implies all these things. Something specify the object, something is specified. The methodology. Mostly researcher, the subject of the research, is an observer of the object and intergeneric in approach. That is, as far as Alinidus is concerned, as far as his methodology is concerned. Researcher is the subject. The approach is mainly folklore as a communication. His understanding is whatever it may be, it is song, ritual, or anything, it will be a means of communication. So in that way, he wanted to explain that. Okay. The position of the researcher regulates the methodology. That is the remarks. Okay, the next one. Yeah. Then conceptual understanding of this is I already explained in the last session, so I don't want to go in detail this one. This is actually for this purpose I wrote this and drawn this, and it is already explained in the last session. Okay, next one. Finished. Yeah. It is the thing that I wanted to talk about this. Both conceptual understanding of this one. It is a very in a manner. I was so swift. I don't know how far you understood, and I think you can ask the question. Then it will be more clear. I know I was not very. Whatever I did is not so not in an understandable way. Okay. Okay, then now I think now we are free, and tomorrow we will go to the next discussion on. I wanted to put forward some, one concept, a new term for instead of folklore. Otherwise, we won't be anywhere. So that is, we can discuss that tomorrow. Only one PowerPoint is left. Okay, ready?
Sorry, he's not there. Hello, sir, he is not there because his internet is having problem. So we will close. Okay, we will close.
Ready, take the responsibility of this concluding this one.
Yeah. So what Professor N.B. Reddy was telling that is internet is in problem. So he's asked us to come close this session. Then tomorrow we will start with discussion, again continue with the same. So,
at 6 o'clock. Yeah, I have a request to everybody that we are going to. I couldn't make very clear this session, 2 sessions, and I think it will be more clear if you come at 6 o'clock itself and wanted to ask some clarification. Then I will give. I have 1 hour to. Within 1 or 2 hours, I finished everything, and remaining 1 hour, we can make it more clear, give more clarity.
Yeah. That is fine. Okay. Right, sir? Yeah. So, sir, Sivakumar, sir, please, end the session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.